Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys football for the Oregon fans who are kind of dialed into the recruiting trail. Y'all know it is a massive next couple of days for this Oregon program as pertains to building out this 2026 class as five-star quarterback Jared Curtis making a visit to Eugene. The last time we talked about Jared Curtis, we knew Oregon was a top contender, but there were a lot of other teams that were kind of in the running. You fast forward to early March, it's between Oregon and it's between Georgia. Want to get into a couple of different things. I think most notably, hey, if you're an Oregon fan, why do you feel good about this recruitment going down the stretch with Jared Curtis? Talk a little bit about what Jared Curtis brings to the table for Oregon and what this could mean for Oregon in the 2026 cycle. Now, before we do, and as always, to the Oregon fans, appreciate you guys and many of y'all who've been rocking with the fellas for the last couple of weeks and months and really last couple of years for a lot of y'all. It's been so fun talking about this team on the recruiting trail in the transfer portal, how they've gone about their business building this roster, the amount of support that the Oregon fans have been showing to the boys in February and March. It means the world. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into it. And I want to start with, hey, why to feel good if you're an Oregon fan going down the stretch in this recruitment? I think it starts with, where this program is going in terms of momentum, in terms of continuity. Where you look at Oregon, Dan Lanning just signs a massive extension. Dan Lanning is going to be in Eugene for the extended future. And so when you're a quarterback looking to commit to a head coach, looking to commit to a program, you want to make sure you know that. I think that's where it starts. I think secondly, look at the momentum that Oregon has. And I'm not going to get up here and say Georgia is falling off or going in the wrong direction. But you look at where Georgia is and where they're going and where Oregon is and where they're going. It's pretty clear that Oregon is skyrocketing in terms of the momentum around this program. And then I think finally, and this is probably the thing that if you are Dan Lanning and Will Stein, this is probably what you want to lean into, and that is look at what we've done with quarterbacks over the last couple of years. It started with Bo Nix. Bo Nix was a guy that when he came to Oregon from Auburn, he was chalked up to being a bust. A lot of people were out on Bo Nix, and Bo Nix develops into one of the best quarterbacks in college football over the last couple of years. Then you take another quarterback in Dylan Gabriel and completely elevate his game as well. I was up here 12 months ago talking about, look, Dylan Gabriel is going to be solid. I don't know if he's going to be elite. Oregon had Dylan Gabriel in that Heisman contention conversation again. So if you're a quarterback looking at, all right, what does the quarterback development look like? Am I coming into a program? Am I coming into an offense that I'm going to get developed and put up numbers? You look at where Oregon is, the 3-year track record under Dan Lanning. It's looking pretty dang good if you're a guy like Jared Curtis. And then on the flip side, and again, this is not meant to be a knock at Georgia. There is a lot of talk around the offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo, and if he's going to even have a job in 12 months. And so you look at where these two offenses feel like they are. If you are Oregon, you are leaning into the quarterback development. You are leaning into the kind of offense that you have rolling in Eugene, Oregon. And I think lastly, you're leaning into all the talent that Jared Curtis is going to have when he's an Oregon Duck. And you're going to come in, you're going to be throwing to guys like DeCorian Moore and guys like, you could Jeremiah McClellan, if Jurion Dickey is still there. The amount of talent in this wide receiver room, it's massive if you're an Oregon fan. That's probably why you feel good. Why else is this a really big storyline? It's momentum in the 2026 class. Oregon's already sitting with the number 2 class in the country as we sit right now. There's a very good shot that we're talking about Oregon having the number 1 class in the country in this 2026 cycle. You land the commitment of Jared Curtis in the spring, going into some of these spring visits and the summer official visits. It's all the momentum you need. You got the face of your class in Jared Curtis. When you have a guy like Jared Curtis, it becomes a lot easier to sell a guy like Brock Harris or a guy like Mark Bowen or a guy like Chris Henry to flip from Ohio State. A lot of these pass catchers, we know Oregon's offense is prolific over the last 3 years, but we want to know we're going to have good quarterback play. That's throwing us the football. Well, Jared Curtis is that guy. that you feel really good about if you're a pass catcher. So you land the commitment of Jared Curtis. Not only are you getting a really good football player, and we're going to get into him as a quarterback in just a second, but you kind of know that the gravitational pull with Jared Curtis and other top prospects from across the country, it's going to be strong. And then number three, the player. I want to talk a little bit about Jared Curtis as well. I'm buying stock in this kid. When he was a freshman and sophomore, and when we were talking about him 12 months ago, when he mentioned that Oregon was a school that he was really interested in, I like Jared Curtis. I probably didn't love him because you go back to the freshman and sophomore year, the numbers, you love the physical traits. You never had a question mark about the ceiling, the potential that Jared Curtis has. I mean, he's 6'4", 225. He's a good athlete that has a absolute of a howitzer arm, probably the biggest arm that you see in the 2026 class. But the high school production didn't totally match up. He was around a 55% completion percentage guy at 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. You fast forward to the junior year, 70% completion percentage, 40 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, also averaged nearly 8 yards per carry on the ground. He's a guy that you land and say, one, you can do anything you want on the offensive side of the football with Jared Curtis. Where you go back to a guy like Dylan Gabriel, and this is kind of what personally excites me about the potential of Dante Moore, that there were things that Will Stein probably did not want to do a ton with Dylan Gabriel. Specifically throwing to the boundary, pushing the ball down the field. A guy like Dante Moore, and even to a larger extent, Jared Curtis, because of his athleticism, it opens up everything. You want to work the boundary, you can, because Jared Curtis has a big enough arm to go opposite hash to the boundary. You want to work the deeper third. That's probably Jared Curtis' best part of his game. That deep ball is big time. It's one of the best deep balls that you see in this class. And then as an athlete, get him involved in the run game, especially in short yardage situations where Oregon has at times struggled over the last couple of years. When you have a quarterback that goes 6'4", 225, that runs with the physicality that Jared Curtis runs with, kind of like what Will Howard brought to Ohio State, that opens up a whole nother game when you're in those third and short situations with a quarterback of the size and athleticism that Jared Curtis has. Really good football player. He is going to get the red carpet treatment over the next couple of days, and that's another thing that I kind of like here, because you read about what this recruitment looks like. I think Jared Curtis likes Oregon the most. I think the family probably likes Georgia the most because it's closer to home, him being from Nashville, Tennessee. You get the whole family on campus. You roll out the red carpet and you show every aspect of this Oregon team. I think he's the only recruit on campus over the next couple of days. So Dan Lanning, Will Stein, you don't got to worry about anybody else. All your attention is going to Jared Curtis. You're pushing the chips into the middle of the table for this kid. I think this recruitment's probably going to wrap up over the next couple of weeks, right? He's going to visit Oregon right now, and he's going to go to Georgia. Hey, if you're an Oregon fan, maybe he just shuts it down after this visit. And we'll obviously monitor it, how it plays out over the next couple of weeks. We'll break down the film if he does commit. This is a big storyline for Oregon because you look at it and say, going into spring and summer, where you really start to knock down these commitments, having your face of the class, your 5-star quarterback locked in, that matters. And that matters in a big way. We'll see how it works out. And I'm trying to think, you had Dante Moore committed a little bit in the 2024 class. Wednesday, because Achilles Smith was committed to Oregon for a while, but he never really emerged as like the face of the class for Oregon. Jared Curtis, I think, would. He's a charismatic guy that has a lot of relationships through the 7-on-7 circuit. I think this could mean a lot for Oregon in terms of recruiting other targets in this 2026 class as well. We will shut it down there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.